welcome back to the channel. As always, I hope you're all well, enjoying the hobby and having a good week. Thanks very much for tuning back in. So this week we are going to be covering the lower half or the bottom section of the Great Wall Hobby SU-27UB in 1/48 scale. We will also be getting the engines, the nacelles and the intakes painted up and attached, and putting the fuselage together, just to give you an idea of what to expect in this week's episode. So as always, I thank you very much for joining me, and also, some of you may have noticed, I've hit 100 subscribers. Guys, I'm totally blown away. I didn't even think I'd get 10, so thank you so much for your support. It has blown me away, so thank you ever so much. Anyway, less of my waffle, and let's get on with the action here. So what you see in front is me painting the wheel wells on the lower half of the kit. I've sped it up a bit because I've listened to feedback, positive feedback, I must say, thank you very much, agreeing with me that we don't need to see every nook, cranny and detail of this kit. So I've sort of sped it along a bit, and a lot of it's self-explanatory as well, so I don't need to fill you in with every sort of bit that's going on. So one of my favourite bits is always removing the masking tape. A nice sharp lines there, very happy with that. So I painted the area in a light grey mix that after some research I found out and got correct. I gotta be honest with you, I'm letting you guys down a little bit here. I can't remember what the mix was. Sorry. Anyhow, moving on, that's that all done. Just a little bit of a close-up to show the detail, because that is something that this kit just has in bundles. There we go, one exciting wheel bay. Okay, next up, I came up with this idea, or found this idea, and I hope it can be useful to you all as well. Is the undercarriage is quite a, well, it's not massively complex, but it's got a few bits to it, and it needed to be painted. But it's a different. But I wanted to paint it away from the kit so that I didn't sort of get any pools of paint where I'm having to get into the nooks and crannies of the undercarriage. So what I've done here is I've almost sort of dry fitted it, but glued the parts together so that the actual framework itself can come away, and then I can paint it separately. I think the video as we go on will explain it better than what I can here. So here I am using CA glue or super glue just to get the parts together. As you can see, a lovely fit there. Let the glue do its action. So as you can see, there's a 3-part sort of undercarriage section there, and I want it to be able to paint all the bits. So as you see, I'll remove that in a second once the actual glue's dried, because I should have a framework in order to do that. After much wiggling around, sorry about that guys, you can see now it's a little bit fiddly, but delicately, because it is a good snug fit, which is what we all want when it comes to undercarriage on an aircraft, a good crisp snug fit. There you go, it comes up as one section. Now I hope you guys may find that useful, just for getting into the nooks and crannies of difficult bits like that, because now you can see it's a hell of a lot easier to completely paint that and get it looking right. There we go, we've got a bit of blue tack, nothing fancy, and just give it a spray down. Paint's looking a little bit dry there, but with the self-leveling thinners it all levels out beautifully, as you can see there. Sped it up again because we all know what it's like to spray. I've also tried to get rid of some of the seam lines on the main gear. I know there's a little bit shown, but I figured out that those bits wouldn't actually be shown once it's put together and all in place. Plus the camera magnifies it, so with a naked eye a lot of it can't be seen. So next up is a fantastic stuff called Alclad lacquers. They do various chromes. They're very, very good. I like to use those alongside AK Extreme Metals. They are my two chosen metallic paints at the moment. If you have any suggestions of others, please hit me up with those, because I'm always open to the new suggestions for better products. So I'm just basically spraying all the pipe work that needs to go into the main gear bays. Just showing this just to show how good the metallic paints from Alclad actually are. They're very, very good. They're very easy to apply as well. As for masking, if you're doing, say, a metallic body of a P51 or a MiG or something like that, as for masking, I'm not too sure. I know AK Extreme Metals are very good for being able to mask over, but Alclad, I don't have a huge amount of experience on that. As you can see there, though, much better than hand painting. Beautiful, beautiful finish there, if I say so myself. So these are the main engine nacelles or intakes, and the instructions say that this bit has to be painted because it's visible, and I found it best to do it now before attaching it to the main part of the aircraft kit. Just to give you guys a heads up, if you're making it yourselves, that's I advise to do that. So, time to just glue the already now painted main gear onto the aircraft. Nice and simple, and it's a really snug click fit, which bodes well for it holding the aircraft weight later on down the line. There we go, nicely in situ. Okay, so obviously I glued the other side, and the next up it was a case of putting the intakes together. Now sadly these are in two shells. What I just briefly showed you there is some plastic weld that I use. I don't use it on everything, but it's really good for gluing things like this together because it really beads up well. And also the method you'll see in a minute is it's almost like I melt the plastic to spread it across the seam line. It bubbles and blisters up a little bit, but when you smooth that back with sanding sticks, you have no seam line. So it works. It's my preferred method. I'm not saying it's the method, but it works well for me, this method. So I generously apply this plastic weld and then give it a good few hours just to completely dry out, to go solid again. It's almost like creating your own plastic goo, that I know is a very popular thing. I haven't delved into that yet, but that is definitely something that's going to be down the line for me. So a few hours later, and I've also sanded it out. As you can see, there is no seam line where it's going to be visible at all. It looks a bit worse on the camera than as usual, than it did in real life, for want of a better phrase. But it works well, and as it turns out anyway, once the back ends of the blades were in, you couldn't see down there anyway. Now I'm showing you that part because there are options with this kit. The previous part there, you have an option for it being open or closed. Now it needs to be closed if you're posing the aircraft on the ground. If you're doing an in-flight version of it, then you need to use the other one with these intakes open. So speeding up again, because we all know what it's like to glue bits together, just putting it in here for inclusion, for completeness. Getting the parts together for the intake, again very well detailed as I've just shown. And it's just a case of popping those bits together and it all comes together nicely. Quick dry fit of the intake. This was a very snug fit, I must admit, and you've got two locating pins at the bottom which again click together, but I found, as you can see there, it pushes that out a little bit, so it did need some assistance, as you'll see later on in the video today. These are the colour. This is the colour I chose basically to paint the intakes. Now there are varying photos, because it seems some of the intakes were grey, some of the intake areas were like this buff beige colour. Some of them were really quite a beige colour. Now the Ukrainian Air Force one that I've seen is quite a beige colour. It looks odd at the moment. Because everyone, I'm so used to seeing things like intakes as grey. Some of them were grey, some of them were brown. I don't know if after maintenance they were then repainted grey or they were then painted beige, I don't know. But this is the reference that I've seen, so I'm going to stick with it. So it's a mix of those two colours shown just a minute ago, and it's just a case of generously applying this into the intake. Now I thinned this a little bit less than normal because I wanted quite a good coat, but with a higher PSI. And as you can see, all those scratches, well, they're pretty much disappearing. You can see the seam lines at the back, but as I say, they are not visible when you actually look in, so I'm happy with that. So there you can see the locating pins, and I'm just painting the rest of the intake. It does, again, look quite stark to start with. Here we are, a bit of speed up action, just getting it completed. Don't want to bore you too much with the paint, because we've all seen that. the aforementioned parts of the engine, the fan blades, I'll give them a quick clean up to get rid of the pins or the bits of plastic that they were holding to the sprues. Always good to do this before fitting, or test to dry fit first, so then you know that the part is going to be perfect. As seems to be the theme with this kit, very snug finish, makes life pretty easy in this case. Now some of you will be asking, why haven't you painted that? Guys, I'm not a fan of painting things you're not going to see. I do not diss those or criticise those that do, because this is a very personal thing. But for me, I just don't see the point of wasting my time in detailing something that you are not going to see. Again, hit me up with some criticism over that if you disagree, but for me, I just didn't see the point. I made sure of this obviously before I fitted it that you're not going to see it, but as you'll see in a minute, it just makes it become a black hole. You know, I could have painted that burnt iron and done all the scorch marks and things like that, and it would look amazing. I'd have bunged that back on and you wouldn't have seen it. And I find that a little bit, okay, it's good for practice, I get that, but for me, nah. See, look, you can't see it, so I haven't painted it. So now I'm going to use the 2 attaching pins. This is something this kit has a lot of, and it really works. You get a good snug fit with this. And again, I'm using the Tamiya extra thin cement because it has a welding action. And in it goes. Pops into place. So next up is painting the intake entrance. Again, it's the same mix of the buff and the white. And as you all know, I like to just put a nice light layer down to create a key, because I haven't primed this because there's no real point. And it's just building the layers up as normal. And we build the layers up gently, don't we guys, because then we can keep the detail. Let's not flood the situation. So I'll speed this up because I'm preaching to the converted, I'm pretty sure here. Just showing the details, which are pretty incredible on this. Very happy with that. Okay, I spared you the agony of watching me masking this up, because believe me, it took ages to get the curves right on the intakes and to get the positioning right as well, checking and rechecking my references. But there we have it, it's ready for the blue now. So again, I do my research on the blue. And as you see, I've come up with number 34 Mr. Colour and number 156. Give that a mix. I can't remember the ratio offhand. I think it was 90% white to 10% blue. But I sprayed that all on, and then it's just a case of doing my favourite part, is removing the tape. Now, I'll be the first to admit I've looked at this and thought this doesn't look quite right. But I've double checked my references and people are swearing blind this is the correct blue. So I've gone with it. But what I am going to do, as you'll see in a while, is I'm going to weather this up. So, talking of the devil, time to weather this up, or to at least, you know, get an oil wash in there. And I'm going to do this just to take the edge off the colour, because it's almost like it's too fresh. So we'll work through this. I won't sort of give it away now, but yeah, I'm applying the oil-based. I don't know what we call that. Just the oil. I don't know what it's called. The artist oil, which has been thinned down with white spirits, of course, to a very weak mixture. And here I am, I just speed this up through filling out all the details. I like this process, I've got a bit of a soft spot for doing this. The word I'm thinking of is oil paints, of course. Just thin down oil paints. Don't know why that didn't come to me just then. So anyway, this brings out all the detail, which there is plenty of. Always do this part and think, crumbs, that just looks so horrible. Let it dry for a few minutes, and then it's a good old Q-tip or cotton bud, and just start to take away to taste of how much I want to take away. I could leave it like that if I fancied. Obviously I haven't, but as you can see, it just dulls the colour down a little bit, just takes that starkness away. which, to be quite honest with you, I was pretty pleased about. I think because I'm so used to doing weathered military aircraft like I did the F-16, that the colours aren't so stark on that. It took me a bit by surprise, because the Ukrainian Air Force one, with the digital camouflage that this is going to be, is pretty well kept. There isn't a huge amount of weathering to do on that, so it's taken me a bit by surprise just how sort of stark the colours are. I am probably, for the main underside, just going to take the edge off of that, maybe go 95% white, 5% blue, and I think then it will meet how dull down this blue looks to the eye. So here I am, just speeding it up, getting rid of the excess. I wish it took this time in real life, it would be awesome. There we go. Let me know what you think, guys. I'm personally very happy with that. So with all the weathering done, it's time. I say the weathering's done. No, I'm right, I did the sides. Apologies for that. I did the sides because, again, I just wasn't happy with how sort of stark it was looking, so I wanted to just dull it down a little bit more. So we'll just speed through that section. And again, grabbing the Q-tip or cotton bud and just rubbing it away. I've sort of left this section in just to sort of, again, offer this as a guide to any new model makers out there of how to do it. It really is as easy as I've shown it. It's not rocket science. Okay, it takes a little bit of a breath or a leap of faith to start with, but as you can see, you can really adjust it to how you like it. Right, now we have finished all the weathering on the intakes, and it's just a case of putting the top half, or the lid, or the top bit of that intake where it joins to the fuselage in situ. Again, it clicks into place, but as you can see, the sides are just sort of fighting me a little bit with this. I sort of, as you'll see in a short while, I have to clamp it in the end, because otherwise that piece just doesn't want to sit. I could have super glued it, but I think that's a bit harsh. I wanted to keep the details and didn't want any sort of glue spillage. So this is a sort of slightly tricky bit you may come up with. It's one of the only tricky bits I've come up with this kit, to be honest with you. So I bring in my trusty clamp and I win. Okay, the eagle-eyed of you will just see there that it's still sticking out, so I address that. But you can see how much that plastic is bowing there. It needed to be done, and I did double and triple check. I made sure there was no flash. It is just how it is with this kit. Not a complaint, it's just slightly more tricky than the rest of it. I think I got spoilt with how easy the rest of it went together. Anyhow, so we're all together now. Very happy with the intakes. Just showing the detail of both of them. As you can see, the colours have been dampened down quite nicely there. Not so bright and stark and fresh looking. Excellent detail. As can be seen here, really pleased with the detail on this. It's something that just oozes with this kit anyway, oozes detail. So, 2 engine intakes sorted. So here I've pre-painted some parts. These are the fine detailing parts for the engine, for the wheelbase. And it's just a case of gluing those into place. This section of the kit, I must admit, it didn't seem to drag on, because, you know, who can complain about having this much detail? I mean, seriously, it's so well done. It's fantastic. But by this point, I was kind of getting into the point where I just want to move along, get the intakes on and start getting the fuselage together. Maybe slightly petulant on my side, but yeah, I just wanted to get going, but I had to sort of rein myself back in, keep the level of standard of detail, keep the concentration going. The more so-called fun parts are soon to come. Here we go, one finely detailed bay. just give you an idea of what to expect, and we'll just glue this yellow part in, which I'd weathered up as well. And just prod that into place. Now we just get on with weathering this part, because I feel it's vital. There's no point weathering, you know, the front wheel bay, weathering up the intakes if you're going to just leave this. I wanted to bring out the fine detail. I know it's going to be sat on its wheels and it's probably never going to get seen really. Here's me harping on about painting things you don't see. Well, I decided to do this because I thought it would look good. So again, I've speeded this up because I appreciate this probably isn't the most thrilling part of the video or the build. But I just wanted to show it. I hope you don't mind, guys, just to show what I've done and what you can do, more importantly, with it. Happy with that. Did both sides. Excuse the slightly shoddy camera ship there. But it just doesn't look haggard, but it just looks used, and that's the kind of look that I'm going for with this kit. So at last it's time to put the engine intake stroke engines into place. Now it has clips, as you can see there are slots all around, which works terrifically. It really works well. And I started off using the Tamiya extra thin, but there's a little bit of tension in those nacelles, which I think works really well because it makes it click into place. So it's kind of tricky to work with, but it tends to work really well once you get used to it. So I started up with the Tamiya extra thin, but it just wasn't biting quickly enough for me, and I wasn't convinced that it was just going to do the job correctly. But there you go, that just shows you where all the clips go. Now, finger of knowledge, I know I'll get the CA glue. So this is what I do. I just pop in a controlled amount of CA glue into here, just to speed things along a little bit, because I needed to keep the tension up just to get it all to click into place, as you can see. But click into place it does, and it was a thing of beauty actually. I will give them credit where it's due. A little bit of glue spillage I think has seeped through there, yes, as you can just see. So I use those tweezers just to keep it in situ, so we don't have an issue further down the line. So it's just a case of running around and attaching these clips into place, and we do that successfully here. I'm doing this. I'd like to thank you very much for getting this far in the video. I really appreciate you listening to what I've got to say. I hope it's helping, and I thank you very much for joining me along in this quest to build this aircraft. If you're new to the channel, please do hit the like and subscribe button. Excuse me. Do hit the like and subscribe button. It means the world to me, and it also keeps the YouTube algorithms happy and just keeps things plodding along. So there we go, guys. This draws the video to an end. I hope you've enjoyed it, but that's all the engine intakes in place. And next week, excuse me, I've got a bit of a dry throat. Next week we'll be getting the top half of the fuselage put on top and moving on swiftly through bits and pieces. But there you go, nice detailed engine, wheel bay. Very happy with that. Thanks for joining me this week. I hope you have a great week. Happy modelling, and speak soon. Toodaloo.